Welcome to A Space to Speak Your Mind,
a radio programme and a podcast
made by people with lived experience as part of a wellbeing group run by Cornwall Mind.
We occasionally do cover subjects that some listeners may find distressing.
For more information, help and support, please visit cornwallmind.org.
A space to speak your mind with Cornwall Mind.
I'm Richard, and on this month's show we'll be finding out what happened on the Firewalk event that Cornwall Mind recently organised and I took part in. Victoria will be chatting to Joshua and discovering why he left 100 notes around the London Underground and bus network, which led to the movie Hey You, Yes You, Open Me. Samuel and Clare speak to Simon Stevens, director of Casework at Addictions UK. I'll be down at the launch of the Reading Room Café and Bookstore in Bodmin. And Robbie, who was at the event, will also be joining me here in the studio to explain how poetry helps his mental health and well-being. So first, let's hear what happened at the Cornwall Mind Firewalk.
A space to speak your mind with Cornwall Mind.
This is Richard. I'm at the Eco Park at Porth Town. We're entering the area where 50 people are going to be crossing hot coals. We're in darkness at the moment as we walk across. There's a fire happening. There are dancers. There's music. I'm joined by Clare, who is about to do the fire walk with me. So we've just had our briefing. How was the briefing?
There's a lot of information to remember. Feel the fear, do it anyway. I'm excited. How are you feeling, Richard?
I'm feeling a little bit nervous. I think I'm going to be okay, but it's one of these weird things, isn't it? Because we've told that there's no tricks. This is actually hot fire.
I can smell it now. Can you smell it?
I can. It smells like aircraft fuel, doesn't it? The sort of kerosene.
Oh my God, look at it. Okay, it's proper flames.
This is the first look at the firewalk. The heat is actually quite...
And there's a big row of flames. I didn't think it was actually going to be on fire. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought it would be actually no embers. Flames. Yeah, just the embers. No, there's a proper fire going on here. This is what we're going to be walking on in about 10 minutes' time.
Oh my God.
What are you feeling right now?
Adrenaline. And yeah, I'm jigging about.
We've got to go. Here we go. Come on, let's go.
We've got some other Cornwall Mind participants here with us.
Yeah, this is Karen. What did you think about the briefing we've just had?
That was brilliant. He was really excited and, very engaging.
Are you motivated?
I am motivated, but it's very cold.
It is cold.
Well, I'll tell you what, in a few moments' time, you're going to have the exact opposite feeling. So the fire dancers have now finished their dance. We've had to take our shoes and socks off.
We're still at the back, Richard. How did this happen?
Yeah, I thought that. It'd be nice to be at the front, over and done with.
We're going.
Temperatures. When that was first lit, it was burning around about 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. Aluminium melts 1100 degrees Fahrenheit. Paper combusts 451. Second degree contact burns occur to human flesh 120 degrees Fahrenheit. That was 1200, 120, your skin falls off. When you're walking on this, it will be burning at an average 500 to 700. Let me remind you, second degree contact burns, 120. That's going to be minimum 500. I'm not just making that number up. I've got a digital thermometer with me. I'll read the temperature of those coals for you. I'll prove to you what you're doing so you know full well that what you're doing is real, genuine in the future. You'll know what you've achieved here tonight. Now we understand all of that. Up over the top area there, let's get ready to walk some fire.
What are your names?
I'm Rachel.
And April.
Rachel and April. So how are you feeling right now? You're about to do it.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty
Yeah,
excited.
excited. A little bit nervous, but good, yeah.
Right, are you people ready to walk some fire?
The first person has crossed the fire. Claire's about to go. Claire, you ready?
They've just done loads more fire. Oh my God.
Go! Nice and quick for it, go!
Right, it's my turn next. Here we go. Getting ready.
Go!
Here we go, crossing the coals. Across I go. I've crossed the coals. I've done it. I've crossed the firewalk. Raising money for Cornwall Mind. Claire, we've just both done the firewalk. How was that?
I mean, it was hot, right? Did it feel hot?
It did feel hot. So I'm here with Jay, and Jay, you've just done the firewalk. Tell me about yourself and your story.
So I was a firefighter back up country for just under 30 years before I come back home to retire. And I work for Cornwall Training and Consultancy, where I teach mental health first aid. A lot of my colleagues, including myself, have suffered PTSD, trauma, and we've all sought counselling. And it's really important that we start to talk, share, and overcome fears, because the mind is really powerful. So for me personally tonight, coming as Jay, without a uniform, without anything at all, just bare, doing that firewalk was absolutely incredible. And I'd like to big thank you for Cornwall Mind for allowing that to happen. Also to all my sponsors, it's amazing.
Tell me about the sponsors.
Friends, family, Cornwall Training, a lot of my colleagues from there have given. We had some guys from Border Force on a course today that I was teaching, actually left some money as well. So the word's getting out. It's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to feel all the feels, and we just need to be more supportive of others and ask and mean, how are you? And stand and listen.
And final thoughts from tonight. You've done the firewalk. How was that?
Incredible. Having spent nearly all my life putting fires out, to challenge that and walk across it barefoot, a strength part of me that I didn't really know actually was there. But knowing I've got the support of friends and family and a great pep talk, it really wasn't good. My feet are zinging. I feel a real buzz. It's incredible.
Well, thank you for your support. Thank you for doing the firewalk tonight, and so much for raising money for Cornwall Mind.
Thank you for allowing it.
Just want to say very briefly, thank you so much for taking part in the event. We talked about fear, and we said you'd have that fear before you walked in. It doesn't matter if 40 people went in front of you. When it's your turn, you still have that same fear that you've got to face. You had that fear there, and at the other end there was something completely different waiting for you, that sense of adrenaline, achievement, whatever it was. What made the change from feeling fear here to feeling absolutely incredible there? And tell you what made that change. You took action. Rather than let that fear define you and keep you in your place, you thought, I'm frightened, but I'm doing it anyway. If you could carry that through to the rest of your life, what things have you really, really wanted, but fear's been kind of preventing you from having and stepping towards? Whenever you're alive, you're going to feel that fear. It's not about the absence of fear, it's about the ability to operate in spite of the fear. And usually, the more frightening it is, the better the reward waiting at the other end, because it's frightening, because it's something I really value. But remember what you did here tonight. You had that fear and you went forward regardless.
A space to speak your mind with Cornwall Mind.
Now let's hear from Samuel and Clare welcoming Simon Stevens, Director of Casework at Addictions UK, to the studio, along with Victoria.
Okay, so I'm joined here by Simon Stevens, the Director of Casework at Addictions UK. Hi, Simon.
Hi.
So we've got Samuel and Clare here.
Hi, Samuel. Hi, Clare.
So tell us a little bit about your role and your background.
Well, my background is probably the good place to start. I became clean and sober. I know not everybody uses those words, but that's how I understand it. I did that 24 years ago. From about the age of 15, however, although I wasn't aware of what I was doing, I subsequently realised I was attempting to self-medicate a mental health condition, and that led me into problems with alcohol and drugs and various other aspects of behaviour. That led me on in my recovery. To find out more about that subject, I qualified as a graduate psychologist and a senior psychotherapist, and a group of us set up both Addictions UK and an organisation called Addictions North East, with an aim to sharing what we'd learnt with other people to help them also with aspects of addiction that were unmanageable.
Wow, that's fantastic. So what do you do on a daily basis in that role?
Often we can arrange for people alcohol detoxes. They're quite hard to get hold of. But the more therapeutic side that we work with is we particularly use the 12-step program or aspects of it, simply because it's widely available all over the country. Meetings are available. And to that, we can have individual telephone appointments, say on a weekly basis, to help people understand what they're learning at meetings or any problems they're having at meetings, but also problems they're having in day-to-day living. And it's all about, I don't need to use drugs or alcohol or certain behaviours I might be working with. I don't need to do those on a daily basis. And it's how do we build that up? How do we build that up over time?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I looked on your website and I see there's a whole list of different addictions. People usually think about the common ones like smoking, drinking, maybe even drugs, but it seems like you can be addicted to pretty much anything.
Anything that there is some aspect in our evolutionary past that they were actually desirable behaviours. We have mechanisms in our brain that get us to do that, primarily fueled or orchestrated by dopamine. However, if you were really going to be accurate, in my humble opinion, it is the dopamine that we are addicted to. because that changes the personality setup within the brain.
I was wondering, have you ever suffered from an addiction before?
Yes. The behavioural ones, for example, pornography would be a one to go with. I know that's not really what we speak about and things, but hey, it's a thing. And there are also various drug and alcohol addictions as well that were all part and parcel of my life up until the age of 40. And on reflection, they were attempts to try and cope with my emotional condition.
That's exactly it. We were just chatting about that earlier, that it seems to be quite often dealing with difficult emotions. Would you say that's true?
Oh, I think that's fundamentally. An emotion is a product of our feelings, which tell us about the world around us. That's what feelings are. They tell us what's happening in the world all around us. The other part of an emotion is what we think about those feelings. So we put thinking and feelings together to create an emotion. An emotion that's unsettled, that we can't sit with, is one where we need to attempt to, ideally, change the thinking we're employing around what our systems are trying to tell us is going on. Drugs, for example, or alcohol, with their massive production of dopamine, will try and block out the feeling side, i.e. pretend it's not there. And that's exactly what, in common parlance, why did you drink? Because I didn't like what was going on around me. If I drink, I don't see it. And obviously that's not a way to exist in the world.
I guess as one of the questions I had was that it's there to replace something that you don't want, currently in your mind, so you find something to drown it out with something that's a different concern.
Well, it does drown it out, but it's often not the substance itself. So let's take alcohol. Many people drink. And strangely enough, when most people drink, they get drunk and they do silly things. That's the nature of alcohol. That happens to everybody. I think with those of us who have a pathological dependency, the simple way of understanding it, we're using alcohol as a way of generating that dopamine in order that we feel less sensitive. We think we cope better with the world. Earthlings, as I call them, they drink to party. They don't have a problem with that because they can stop and start whenever they choose. I could never choose when I stopped and started. It was either all or nothing. My brain's very much all or nothing with things. So it's the dopamine it produces that does the blocking. The drugs themselves or the alcohol or the behavior are simply mechanisms through which we produce that dopamine. But many of us have different mechanisms that work well for us. Gambling's not a thing for me. For other people, gambling can produce immense amounts of dopamine, which blocks out that reality. So I once remember very vividly a young man who explained to me that he didn't feel his life was particularly good. He was clearly struggling with all kinds of emotional problems. But when he got his gyro, and this was back in the day that gyros were given, when he got his gyro, he went to the post office, got the money, he went into the gaming shop to the very back, it was almost next door, and for the length of time his money existed, all those flashing lights and things blocked out reality.
Which actually kind of brings me to a different point that I wanted to say, is that you're kind of making this throughout it, but the reasons for addiction are mostly identical, the same reasons that people can develop an addiction, like I said, to replace something, but it's just a choice that they have of what they choose to get addicted to.
Yes. The difference with the things that are addictive is they keep doubling up all the time. They're not limited by the environment. So, for example, say your hobby is horse riding. There is only so much horse riding you can physically do. The environment limits that. So it doesn't really become a problem in the way that heroin does, because there is no environmental limit on the amount of heroin, until you die, that is. I think a key part of addictions is that once we start, we can't stop.
I'm interested in, like we've discussed, you can be addicted to pretty much anything. What are kind of some of the modern day addictions that you're seeing now?
Within a very commercial world, some people anyway, solve their emotional problems by excessive shopping or perhaps shoplifting. But this obsessive obtaining of things, which you can readily see in an evolutionary path as being useful, in today's world, the fact that you can do it to an unlimited degree is not useful. It can become very problematic. The one that's seen as the most problematic, of course, is alcohol. And it is. There is no doubt that were alcohol a magic new invention today, there would be an uproar about it. It wouldn't be legal.
Our topic of mental health, whatever that may be, they're more susceptible.
I think there are different personality temperaments. The difficulty might be that 80% of people share personality temperaments Whilst they're not identical, they're all by and large very similar. And society is based around that 80%. Why shouldn't it be? That's a kind of a natural sort of democracy almost. However, 20% of people, there's nothing necessarily wrong with their mental health position per se, but it is different to the 80%. And therefore society doesn't reflect their needs terribly well. And it becomes quite stressful to live in that world. Stress being the emotion, how we're coping with our emotions. People might then search out something to try and turn that off.
If alcohol as a recent thing, it would not have been as popular or as widespread?
Oh, I'm sure it might be as popular, but whether it would be as acceptable. Alcohol was far less readily available and nowhere near as strong. There certainly wasn't, sort of say, if you took medieval England, and it certainly wouldn't be spirits, 40%, that by volume. That didn't exist. And that's the change that's happened. Human beings have stayed pretty much the same. Yes, people like a drink, and in moderation, as they say, not so much of a problem, but so much harder to moderate when you're placed in front of so much supply. And for those people who are trying to use it as a medicine, because they're not keeping their mental health well or whatever, they're trying to use it as a medicine, the effect just multiplies.
If someone has an addiction, what's the way out? Like, how do you guys help people with that?
Well, the simple plan would be whatever you're addicted to, you need to cease. And stopping is not always the problem. It's not always easy, but it's not the problem per se. The problem is staying stopped. And that comes about, for example, if we were to take alcohol, my personal pathway, it's not the only pathway, it's the one that I chose to use simply because of availability. Cease drinking alcohol, start addressing my mental health issues by going to an organisation such as Alcoholics Anonymous and working on myself. So I didn't feel the need that the world was less overwhelming. I didn't feel the need to have something to block it out. It's a bit like hitting your head off with a sledgehammer, isn't it? Well, that's how I perceived it. You stop what you're doing, you start addressing your mental health needs so you don't need to do it again. But the secret is to do it at a time, I found, for me.
Fantastic, great words of advice there. So how would people get in contact with you if they wanted to reach out to get some advice on addictions?
I think you'll find that our website is a wonderful resource. It gives a lot of information at addictionsuk.com.
A space to speak your mind with Cornwall Mind.
This is A Space to Speak Your Mind, and the recent launch of the Reading Room in Bodmin was opened by Cornwall Mind CEO Paul Reeve and National Mind's CEO Dr. Sarah Hughes, who spoke to me ahead of the opening. I'm here with Dr. Sarah Hughes, who's the CEO of National Mind. So thank you for being here at the Reading Room. It's the opening day and so many people here. What does having a reading room here in Bodmin mean for National Mind and for Cornwall Mind?
I mean, come on, it's every middle-aged woman's dream, isn't it, to have a bookshop? So I feel like I've come home to my natural home. But, in serious terms, this is an opportunity for the community to connect with mental health through their love of books. And as an avid reader myself, I know that reading and being part of a reading community is food for your soul, right? So I think this will offer the community something quite remarkable in that way. I also think that just having this sort of safe space where people know that they can come, they can be welcomed and supported. This is a gateway also to services. So, if you walk in, it looks like a bookshop, feels like a bookshop. You're going to get very good coffee here, by the way. I'm drinking one as we speak. But the most important thing, this is a mental health bookshop. And so if you come in here and you need help, you'll get it.
And it's so good because we are underneath the Cornwall Mind building, so there are people around that are trained to be able to support people, and there's information around about Cornwall Mind and around mental health. So as you say, even if people just want to come in and have a chat or just want to be a quiet solace in their life.
Absolutely, because ultimately this is now a community resource. This is part of Bodmin. This is Bodmin's bookshop, right? So if I was a local, this would be my local cafe. I would be sitting here all day long, loving the books and drinking the magical coffee. I just think this is a gift. And for National Mind, it's the first. So this is the first reading room. And we've got a lot of minds and we've got a lot of shops, but this is unique. This is groundbreaking, and we are dead chuffed.
And what I think is quite interesting as well is the fact there's such an array of books, and there's some self-help books, there's some books around learning new skills, and that's so much part of what Mind is about learning, about connecting, and to have that in one space is great.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think that's the eclectic nature of reading. You go from self-help, you go to fantasy and fiction and all sorts of things in between, and I think it kind of brings people together. And we at Mind obviously want people to look after their mental health, and so you can grab a book in here and it'll tell you about meditation, or it can tell you about eating well. What more could you want, guys? Come to the reading room in Bodmin.
And great coffee as well.
I'm so impressed at the coffee. I have to say, I am a bit of a coffee snob, right? So I was a little bit kind of, are they really going to have good coffee? And I'm telling you now, I'm drinking the best cappuccino I've had in a week. So people, you can be rest assured the coffee's good.
Thank you so much for being here today and opening the reading room here in Bodmin.
Oh, what an honour. I have to say, this has been the highlight of my trip to Cornwall, and I've been here. I've even been to the Eden Project for the last few days, and this is better than that. Don't tell them, but come to the reading room. If you're going to the Eden Project, just drive for 10 minutes down the road, come to the reading room and support Cornwall Mind.
Well, thank you so much for coming. This is a really exciting day for us. It's a culmination of a lot of work, and I'm really privileged to introduce Sarah, who's the Chief Executive of National Mind, who's going to say a few words to open it for us.
Oh my gosh, what a privilege. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you so much for coming and sharing this wonderful experience with our colleagues over at Cornwall Mind. This is a wonderful, absolutely extraordinary step for the Federation as a whole. This is the first Café/bookshop, and so this is really groundbreaking for us, and this is about bringing mental health into the community in quite an extraordinary way. This is about integration, isn't it? This is about welcome. This is about being part of a community front and centre. And so thank you to Cornwall Mind for being such brave ambassadors for good mental health in our community. So thank you, and congratulations to you all, actually.
Thanks, Sarah.
You should be very, very proud.
Yes, we are.
We are in the middle, and I don't want to kind of bring us back down to earth with a bump, but I'm going to have to, aren't I? We are in the middle of a mental health crisis. The mental health crisis is real. We hear a lot at the moment, don't we, about is it an overdiagnosis? Is it real? It is very real. We know it's real, don't we? We know that people are struggling for all sorts of reasons. So I want you to know that together with Paul and friends across the network, we are fighting tooth and nail about making sure that we don't see the stigma roll back to the days of old. We are fighting to make sure that whatever benefits reform happens, that our people are not put at risk. If I have to chain myself to number 10, believe me, I'll do it.
You will, won't you?
Oh, you can imagine. I've got the stuff already laid out. So I want you to know that we are alongside you every day. We are primarily concerned with what's happening in our local areas, what's happening on the front line. That's all that matters every day for National Mind too. And so it's on that note that this is a gift to the community. Congratulations. I'm so excited to say this is now an open Café/bookshop, and how very exciting for us all. So thank you so much.
Thanks,
and
Sarah.
back over to you.
So, Joe, after several months, would you like to turn the sign so that it says open?
Yay! Oh, how wonderful!
We're really lucky to have with us Robbie, who is a spoken word poet.
Well, this is a little bit daunting standing in the middle of everyone. So hi everyone, my name's Robbie. I'm a poet / spoken word artist / all sorts that comes along with it. I started writing because of mental health. Mental health really did break me at one point. I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and it crushed me. And as the years went on, I got sicker and sicker and less able and less able. And I turned to writing to just one day just chuck thoughts on a page. And I was never going to share the words. Never going to share the words because I was ashamed. I didn't want to share my emotions. But my wife, Donna Marie, encouraged me to share and go out and put it out into the world because it could help other people feel less alone, not just people with disabilities, but people with mental health issues too. So that's what I did, and 10,000 followers later, and books sold, and all around the world with music and things like this, and that all started with struggling with my mental health. So I wanted to read you 3 poems, and it will take you on a little bit of a journey, a little bit of a story, because they'll all sort of interlink with each other anyway. This first piece I'm going to read is called I'm Damaged, Not Broken. Okay, so living with MS and mental health, you can feel broken a lot, but to put out the point that you're not broken was a big thing for me, because I have to tell myself, okay, I'm damaged, parts of my body don't work, my mental health has bad days, but I am damaged, I'm not completely broken, and that's where this piece came from. So damaged, not broken. I may be damaged, but I am not broken. Sometimes I feel broken, but I still work. I'm the same person, but as the years progress, I become less able, limited, more hurt. I'm psychologically damaged, mentally damaged, physically challenged, but I am not broken. I'm hanging by a thread, but I'm doing my best to manage, and I carry a smile with me daily. Just like the smile, I carry the damage. I can't escape the damage, so I do my best to live with it. Me and the damage survive side by side. Neither one of us can live without the other, so we survive within each other. Being damaged with a fake or not smile doesn't make you broken. Broken would mean you don't work. But I work. I work hard every day. I work hard against this progressive illness that's destroying my brain, that causes the pain, that causes the deletion of myself, my physical self, my mental health. I work to keep myself from breaking to the point there is no putting myself back together. I will not watch that final thread snap. There is no magic that can fix the damage. There is no magical powers that can fix the scars that hide in my heart or desecrate the inside of my damaged brain. So I live with the pain. I only have the will to persevere and keep going. I may be damaged, but I am not broken. Thank you.
I'm here with the first customer for the reading room. What's your name?
I'm Andy Coppin, Town Councillor for Bodmin, former Mayor.
So what does it mean to have the reading room here in Bodmin?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an excellent addition to the town. It's close to the town centre, so hopefully it should drive a bit more footfall to the town. It looks like a great place for people to come and socialise, and also get back into reading, which I think is quite important.
And promoting good mental health as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, mental health is quite a big issue in Bodmin, I think. I think probably well over 50%, if not more, have some form of mental health problems. I myself have had a mental health problem, and I understand how people can feel about it. Anxiety is a massive thing. It's hard for people to get out of their houses these days. I think COVID didn't help with that. So having something like this where they can go has got to be good.
It's great to have those open conversations. I think it's going to be a great space to allow people to talk about mental health and just talk about life.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's highly visible as well. It's on the main sort of road, so everyone's going to see it. I think everyone's been excited about it opening, and it's great to see so many people have come today.
Okay, so telling myself that I'm not broken becomes a clear message that I need to remind myself that it's okay to not be okay. And reminding other people that it's okay to not be okay. It says it up there on the wall as I came in, and I love that. I framed a poem, this poem, and I gave it on my way in for you guys to hang somewhere if there's room. So this poem is called It's Okay to Not Be Okay. It's okay to not be okay. We should tell ourselves this all the time. Fighting through a depressive state and not being okay is certainly not a crime. It's okay if I want to hide away in my bed and stay there all day. If you're struggling mentally and depression sits in, it's okay to feel that way. When pain interferes and you need to stop, there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay if you can't comprehend your illness and you wish you could go back. If the doctor persistently issues bad news or they say nothing's wrong with you, which makes you feel crazy, it's all right to cry. It's normal to feel defeated. No one can always have the strength to fight. It would be impossible to keep your chin up all the time. You are strong, but you might not always be that way. So when you're stuck and you feel yourself breaking, please remind yourself, it's okay to not be okay. Thank you.
So I'm going to grab my coffee, and I'm here with Gary. So Gary, can I have a decaf cappuccino?
Of course you can, sir, not a problem.
Fantastic. Now, what made you want to be part of the reading room, and tell me a bit about your experience?
I mean, who doesn't want to work in a bookshop? I mean, it's like the sort of library dream of growing up, shelving things in a really peaceful environment. But I love coffee, I love talking to people, being with people, and having a job that's actually giving back in a way, so you're actually doing something worthwhile with your time. I've always thought a good book at the right point of time in your life can change your life. So I just want to be able to bring that to other people and show people a nice sort of place to go and be safe, read books and relax.
So Fern's making my coffee right now. So Fern, it is the opening day. What does it mean to you to have the reading room open with Cornwall Mind?
I mean, it's just creating a community that can feel safe around things that help us be more at peace. There's a wide range of books here, so there's a little bit of everything for everyone. Come in, have really nice coffee and feel safe to be who you are, accepted for who you are no matter what, and if you need help then we will always be here to provide it, and I think that is really great thing to have in the community.
Yeah, the fact that people can just come in, read a book, have some quiet space, but maybe if they want a conversation, it just allows those conversations to happen naturally.
Exactly, and if it's in a space where they feel like they are able to, because that's what we're here for, then that's more power for them. We want to make sure that they know how incredible it is that they have come in and spoken and sought out help, and that's what we're here for, to give that extra little bit of hope to people. So it's really nice.
And it's getting very busy now, so I'll leave you to it, but you've just made me my coffee, so thank you, that's amazing.
This last piece I wrote quite recently. This is called That's Why I Write. I wrote this for the mental health awareness and the Mind fundraiser we did at Bring Your Verses. I wrote this for that, because this is why I write. Spoken word, poems, poetry and me. Broken emotions and a distorting body left me devastated, but feeling a little wordy. Making little rhymes during painful nights about painful nights. Putting my daily mentality fights into verses as my mentality fights. Writing sad pieces of haiku about the damage and destruction which depression can do. I write line after line, dark and chaotic words of internal sabotage and how much loneliness hurts. I find myself writing poetry about living with this disability which my body has decided to deliver me, and by no fault of my own, it will never leave me. I express my daily life's curses into hard to read, painful verses, hoping for a depression lift, or just a moment of peace, because there is no way to reverse this. A poem on a page could be filled with nightmares and rage that I've pulled from my darkened headspace. I've got to keep these emotions someplace safe. Safely away in a book or on a page, I use this as a weapon to support my fragile yet depressive mental state. My body couldn't take another mentality break. Spoken word is my release. An emotional relief, it's meditation, it's expression, it's reaching for peace. It's taking the pain from my brain, sharing the words of a curse and my rage from a page, and embracing a stage and being vulnerable in such a dramatic way. It's telling the nightmares that I'm strong, but I'm having the final say. The anxiety in me tries to delete me and retreat me and return me to the pieces of the previously self-depleting broken me, but I'm still standing here with the stage beneath my feet. Spoken word, poems, poetry, and me. This is my way of not letting mental health issues absolutely destroy me. Thank you.
A space to speak your mind with Cornwall Mind.
This is Richard back in studio, and I am joined now by Robbie from Beneath The Tracksuit, who you just heard there. So Robbie, thank you for being here.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me.
So tell me a bit about your story. You explained there on the day of the reading room opening about poetry and how it's important to you. When did you first discover poetry?
I was struggling with my mental health and I needed somewhere to put my emotions and the thought processes that I was having. And I listened to a lot of deep music at the time. So Jelly Roll was my favourite artist at the time, and that guy, he gets me my feelings all the time. And he was telling stories with his music. And that's just what I did one day. I picked up this pen and paper and I sat on my bed and I started writing this poem. And Donna Marie looked at me and she said to me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm writing a poem." But I hid it in embarrassment, like, I'm writing a poem. Like, I was like embarrassed, like, because I was taught it was like not a cool thing to do. It was like a sad, depressing thing to do. And it made me feel a little bit silly at first. But I loved it. It was amazing to just get my thoughts onto a bit of paper. I finished the poem. And Donna Marie said to me, she said, like, "That's amazing, you should be sharing stuff like that. You should be sharing that." I said, "No way. Not a chance. Nobody is ever going to see my words. I'm not going to read this to anybody. Like, it's lucky that I read it to you. But I carried on writing, and she carried on persisting that I share. I still persistently said no because I was embarrassed. I've always been one to hide away my emotions. I was always like that. I didn't like to talk, but writing became a way out for me. And then eventually I said yes to sharing it. I'd written a handful by then, and I started sharing them online under the pseudonym Beneath The Tracksuit, because everything hides beneath the tracksuit. The mental health is beneath the tracksuit. I have MS, and that is all hidden beneath the tracksuit. So an invisible disability, and mental health is an invisible disability in itself. And Beneath the Tracksuit was the end line of one of my poems. You can't see what's beneath the tracksuit. That was where the name came from, and I just rolled with it from there. And I just carried on writing, and I carried on sharing, and I reached people all around the world. Within 2 months of me sharing my poetry under Beneath the Tracksuit, I was put in a magazine in America, the MS Focus magazine. They'd taken the first poem I'd written and the story behind it, and they'd put me in a magazine in America. It was such a surreal feeling. It was insane.
I love the fact that you found something that allowed you to be open about your mental health. Were you quite creative as a child, and did you use the spoken word, or was it difficult for you to find this as a pathway?
When I was younger, let's say 13, 14, 15, I was at the era of Eminem, 50 Cent, D12 and G-Unit. So I wanted to be a rapper like everybody else did. I wore the baggy shorts and the flat peak hat and the cool trainers. So I wanted to be a rapper just like those. But that didn't work out very well for me. I wasn't very good at it. I didn't dedicate myself to it. I think I wrote 1 or 2 things with my friends, and that was it. But that was really the only time I've ever really used words for anything. But it did just come naturally to me when I started writing. And I think the more I wrote and the more stories I had to tell, the more emotions I found, the more I found things that were eating at me, but I could write about them in verse, and then it would be like I've sort of let go of that. I could put this to bed, sort of thing. It was a great way for me to communicate. I could read this stuff to Donna Marie and she would understand, or I wouldn't even have to read it to her. She could read it herself, and it really helped me talk to her without being so vocal to her. And it also helped me become more vocal as well in general. I talk now more than I did before I started writing, because I've learned to be more open about my emotions.
It's having that confidence, isn't it? And I think to be able to experiment and finding those words is so important, because I think sometimes it's hard to express ourselves, and to have that is such a powerful thing. I'm kind of interested if music in itself, and poetry obviously leads on to songwriting and to music, it's such an interesting way of dealing with emotions, and you can listen to any song out there and its experiences. It's the things that they, like you say, haven't spoken to anyone else about, but have put down in verses, and we're there sort of listening to the radio and kind of go, oh, this is a great song, without kind of really understanding the passion that's gone into it. I can obviously hear from you that you yourself get something from it, and I think from what we saw on the reading day, other people were resonating with your thoughts as well. I'm just wondering what that means to you.
It's a really surreal feeling. There's lots of different emotions that come from the way other people take my poetry. A big one is I'm not alone. That's a big one for me. So many people tell me thank you for putting my thoughts into words, because I can't do that. This is what people tell me, and then they say it makes me feel less alone. I have MS and I suffer with bouts of depression in and out a lot, and brought on by the disability, because it's a hard one to live with. But when people are telling me I don't feel alone in how I feel, they're also reevaluating my thoughts, because now I don't feel so alone in how I feel, because these people are telling me they feel how I feel, and so that in return I feel how they feel. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. I think what's great is the fact that you're now publishing books, so you're bringing all these together, and that's a huge step to go from writing something so personal to actually publishing it and letting the world see all of these intimate thoughts.
Yeah, it sounds really silly, but none of it was my idea. It was Donna Marie's idea for me to write a book. And then for me to get on stage, that wasn't my idea either. That was somebody else's idea again. And then all along the way, it was like it was other people's ideas that were just supporting me, because I was still mentally struggling, even though I was writing. And even though I was reaching out and supporting, but I was still mentally struggling. So I had lots of people, how about this? This is a good idea. This is a good idea. This is a good idea. And I'd sort of embrace it. I'd embrace it. So I embraced sharing the poem. I embraced writing the books. It became good for me. The first one, people say, how did you do it? And I said, it was so easy for me. All my books are filled with poetry, but there's pages and pages of where I've just written thoughts and feelings through them. And in turn, it tells a whole story. The poetry mixes with the words, and then it makes a story. And so it became quite easy. And then I wrote 3 books. One, Thoughts of a Warrior first. Then I wrote A Diagnosis Journey, which was my diagnosis story, but again, it managed to tell it through poetry and in verse, and then mixed with stories. And there's actually quite a lot about this hospital in there as well, actually, because I was diagnosed twice, but I was diagnosed in this hospital the second time, because I was diagnosed in Essex first, and then I moved to Cornwall, and they said, all right, well, we'll scrap that and we'll retest you all for everything. So I was diagnosed twice, which was a big ordeal in itself, because I had to have 2 lumbar punctures, and they are awful. I laugh about it because if you don't laugh, right?
And for those who don't know, we are currently at the CHB Studios in Treliske at the Royal Cornwall Hospital.
And then my last book, I Don't Like Poetry. I wrote a book called I Don't Like Poetry because I didn't like poetry. I used to say I write poetry, but I don't like poetry, which was a very daft statement to say. But I do, I actually like poetry, and I've written a whole book about I don't like poetry. And it tells a wonderful story of going from how you don't like poetry to how you like poetry, and how you actually use poetry all the time in your life. You remember it from school, you remember the rhymes as a kid, you go out and you look for your wife's Valentine's Day cards, and you look for the ones with the best writing in, right? So it's got poetry in it, and you look for this all the time. So it tells a cool story.
And Donna Marie is also here. So just listening to Robbie's story there, and you've been so fundamental to the journey that Robbie's been on. Just tell me from your point of view, when you saw Robbie's poetry for the first time, what was the process of realising that this is going to be a really big part of Robbie's life?
Well, when he read it to me, I was shocked, because I'd been with him 10 years and didn't know he could write like that. I was very, very shocked. And initially, my brain just went, he's got to share that. Straight away, he's got to share that. If he can write like that, he's got to share it. People need to hear this. And I egged him on and persuaded him. And you could see the anxiety in him. And he was like, no, I can't do that. And I was like, you can. People need to hear this. I've never, ever seen anyone that writes like that before in my life. And lots of people don't write about their emotions. Well, I know music people write about their emotions, but spoken word is not around. And I just knew from the second I heard that poem, he's a star. He's brilliant. And I just encouraged him the whole way through. And I was just like, he's got this. And I know he's got it. And I weren't wrong.
Absolutely. I mean, these poems and your spoken word is being shared with the world, and bringing that in. You're going to be doing some events, and Bring Your Verses is one of these. What's all that about?
When I first started reading poetry on stage, it was always at Bodmin Library. They used to have an open stage once a month. So I first started reading there, and I was hidden behind my phone, hiding because I didn't want to be seen. And I had no stage presence either, because it was not something I'd ever planned to do with my life. And then as time went on, the library got refurbished, and then they opened up a space for a spoken word night once a month. And somebody ran that before me, and they had to step down for medical reasons. But then they offered it to me. Mimi from Into Bodmin, the host of the open stage night there, approached me and asked me if I wanted to run the spoken word night there in open word format, and I could run it and rename it and rebrand it however I chose. And then I thought Bring Your Verses was a great thing, because everybody could just bring a verse and it didn't matter what it needed to be about. But I said to her, I needed certain things for me to be able to do this, because I'm still very ill. I said I'd need like a chair on stage, I'd need support from the back, I'd need maybe a co-host, and maybe all of this sort of things. And she said, you can have it all, you can have everything, anything you want, because it's up to you if you want to run it. And at first there was one night when there was only 3 of us there, weren't there? There was me, Donna Marie, my friend, and the barman. But now it's on every second Wednesday of the month, and it's full. There's between 10 and 15 performers, and this is incredible because it's just building and building and building, and it's nice because it's a lovely communal space. And everybody can bring a spoken word verse about anything, a little poem, a really lengthy spoken word piece, an intense verse, a fun little rhyme, do you know what I mean? And people do, and we've got some very experienced performers, and then we have people that are just stepped on stage for the first time. Last month, we did an open mic night to raise money for Mind. And there was somebody that came for her first time ever being on stage and reading a poem. It was incredible, and it's amazing to see. And it's an absolute pleasure to be able to give people the space to read and give people the opportunity to do something. Because when I did it as well, I was really nervous, really scared, and I understand how everybody's feeling when they first come to the stage, and I really like to be there to support them as well. And I'm like, just go up on the stage, the show doesn't start for half an hour, go up there and just walk around, have a photo, look at the microphone, pick it up. And it's nice to be supportive with people like that, because I understand the fear of getting up on the stage. And every time we get glowing reviews from everybody, and it's absolutely brilliant.
It's great, and also to be able to share that with other people and to give them the encouragement to find their own voice. That's so amazing. And you've got a performance that's happening very soon on the 8th of May?
Yeah, Liskeard Library, they also do spoken word and poetry events, and on the 8th of May they've asked me to headline for their live and later spoken word event, which is really, really cool. I'll be there and I'll have books for sale to sign, and it'd be amazing to meet some people there.
And you've had so much support on your journey as well. Are there some people that you'd like to thank?
Yeah, definitely. There is Into Bodmin have been behind me all of the way. Every step of the way since I first got on the stage, and since they let me have my own show there where I performed I Don't Like Poetry there at the end of last year. All of the poets that come to bring your verses, they are all just come and they just open up. It's amazing. And one that's there is Charles Poems. He has really come from very anxious to being a true performer. I performed with him on the weekend at a show with the Falmouth Community Choir, and he just became at another level. And then most of all, obviously, my wife Donna Marie, because like you said earlier, she's been behind me all the way, and I wouldn't be in this radio studio right now if it wasn't for her egging me on every step of the way.
And if people want to follow you, or they're inspired by your poetry, or they want to get a hold of one of your books as well, where's the best place to get some more information?
Just type in Beneath the Tracksuit on Facebook and I come up. On Instagram, YouTube I come up. I've got music out, so on Spotify I come up there. And Amazon is the best place to get my books from. And people sell them on eBay for twice as much as they actually are on Amazon, which is very, very cheeky. So I just tell people just to buy them from Amazon, and that's where that's where I sell them. So they are there on Amazon.
So that's the best place to find more information on you. So good luck with the performance on the 8th of May, and I look forward to hearing from you again. And thank you, Robbie, and also Donna Marie, for joining us here in the studio today.
Thank you.
Amazing, thank you.
A space to speak your mind with Cornwall Mind.
This is A Space to Speak Your Mind, and it's now time to hear from Victoria, chatting to Joshua about his project to connect with people on the London Transport Network.
Joshua, hi. Well, thanks for joining us. You're here to tell us about how you left 100 notes for people on the underground trains and buses around London, and the result with your movie, Hey You, Yes You, Open Me.
Yeah, so to be honest with you, I had no idea this project would resonate quite as much as it has, and been as popular as it's become. But yeah, essentially, November to December last year, I hand-wrote 100 cards with nice positive messages, and then put them in brown envelopes and sort of distributed them in different places, mainly on the transport system in London, with a little invitation to connect in the cards, and got chatting to strangers who would pick up a card and contact me and have lovely chats with people. It was lovely.
It's such a beautiful story. What was it that prompted you to do this? What's the backstory?
So I was going to do something a little bit traumatic and quite difficult about the summer last year, and I was in a pretty dark place. And I remember just waking up one morning. I tend to throw myself into creativity when I'm feeling not too hot.
Okay.
And I woke up that morning and kind of just was like, what can I do to practice some kindness, be creative, and also feel a bit more connected to the people around me? Because at the time I just felt completely isolated, really. And I came up with this idea and thought, this is a cool thing to do. And I thought I'd film the whole process as well, just on my phone, and sort of gave me something to do, a bit of a purpose. And I didn't realise just how lovely and I'd find the whole thing, really.
So what did surprise you about the whole sort of experiment, I suppose? What came through from it that you perhaps didn't expect?
Various different things. I think for me, one of the main things I learned is that kindness is completely contagious. And a small act, even the smallest gesture of kindness, can have a ripple effect on someone's entire day. And I think a lot of people in London think it's a lonely place and it's a tough place to sort of be kind. But actually, when you look up and look for kindness, you can see it everywhere. On the tube, on the buses, everywhere you go. If you look up and actually look for kindness, it's there. So it sort of opened my eyes up to just how kind people are, really.
Absolutely. I think London does get a bad reputation, doesn't it? And, cities in general. And actually, my experience, I lived in London for a long time. And when I went back in the summer, I had people helping me with my suitcase and opening doors for me. And it's there. It's there if you look for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you're completely right. It is. It is absolutely. I challenge anyone next time on their tube just to look up for 5 to 10 seconds and you'll be able to see maybe 20 to 30 small acts of kindness just in that little time frame. It's wonderful.
And how did you come up with the messages? Because you left 100 notes, right?
Yeah, I left 107 by accident. I'm not very good at counting. It's an interesting thing because I realised afterwards that a lot of the messages I was writing were also for me in a roundabout way that I didn't realise at the time.
I was wondering that, actually, yeah.
So a lot of them came from just my head, really, but I would listen to music, I love art, and I love reading poetry, so all the messages were from experiences or from things I've absorbed as a human being and wanted to share. And I'd have like 1 or 2 different messages that I would repeat sometimes. I just really liked them. Some of them were repeated, but slightly differently worded or whatever. But even now, before I leave the house, I write a message. I go, I don't know what I'm going to write. I just put my pen to the card and just see what comes out.
Mm-hmm. So what is one of your favourite messages to leave around?
My favourite message is you are at least one person's favourite person. And it's really important to remember that when everything feels like it's going badly and it's loss after loss, to know that someone just thinks you're amazing. You're someone's hero, no matter who that is. That's important. I think if you can change one person's life, you can change the world, really. And if someone thinks the world of you, you're doing something right.
Absolutely. I think loneliness is quite a big deal these days, isn't it, really?
I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because I suppose we have all the social media, we have everything to be as well connected as we can be, but we're constantly being pitted against each other in the news or by politicians or whoever wants to pit people against each other. They manage to do it. And that can be quite an isolating experience. And I just think to connect with other people is to be human.
Gosh, absolutely. I really think that's what we need. We need more of it. We need more connection, not less.
Exactly. The one thing human beings all have in common, it's the one common thread that we have, is we know how to love and we know how to be kind. And that's the one thing we all have. So we just need to keep reminding ourselves that. Well, I have to keep reminding myself that at the very least.
Were you surprised by the responses that you received?
Yeah, I still continue to be surprised, really. I didn't think that far ahead when I did it. I thought it was a nice idea. And then I'd get sort of messages back, and I'm not a therapist or anything, but some people would message me in really tragic details about their life and how much sort of that message, those couple of words, helped them. I made a vow to reply to everybody. Anybody who ever messages me and opens up, then it's my duty as a human being to respond to it. But obviously I'm not necessarily trained to talk about some of these things, so it can be really tricky. And one thing I wasn't expecting were people responding back but actually wanting to take an interest in how I'm doing, which is lovely, but something I was completely not expecting.
One of the things from watching the film was your vulnerability, like that you were quite open and honest about what you've been feeling, and that really struck me.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something I've been really trying to explore. I suppose when you go through something really rough and you have to you're forced to self-reflect. I'm an actor, mainly. I like telling stories, and I just think the best stories that are authentic and real and true. So I did make a point to be as honest as I could about where I was and what I was trying to do, without sort of divulging information that's not really necessary.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite rare that you see young men, not young anymore, men sort of talk about their feelings a little bit in a way that's quite accessible.
Absolutely. I thought that was what was really powerful about the film. Women probably do express their emotions a lot more than men do.
Yeah, I grew up with 3 older brothers. I had no sisters, so I grew up in and we're very close, but a very male-dominated household. And it's only, I'd say, in the last maybe 5 years or so that there's a real openness. It's changed. You know, my older brothers are now talking about their feelings a lot more, and my dad, and it's really nice to see that, and I hope that's happening elsewhere as well. I know it's happening with the men in my life.
Yeah, I think that is definitely happening. I'm hearing a lot more about men's groups and things like walking groups for dads and different groups that men can come together and share their feelings and chat about things.
Well, it goes to the point again, doesn't it? It's the connection that people need. Connection is support at the same time. This exploration of kindness I'm on. I don't know as if it ever ends. I feel like I'm just...
I was going to ask, are you going to keep doing it?
Yeah, I still do it now. I'm often late to a few things because I realise I've not written a few cards, and then I have to go in my head and go, right, how many tubes am I getting on today? And try to take the right amount. So sometimes I'm late because I forget to write. I always make sure I take 4 or 5 out with me every day. Yeah, I just feel like I'm scratching the surface of what kindness means to me and sort of the power of kindness, because I think there's a real power to it.
Absolutely. Do you think there's something more that you'll explore there, like from this initial project? Have you got some other ideas?
Yes, I do. So actually, I am meeting up with a friend of mine this afternoon for a coffee. I'm very lucky in the years of working as an actor to have made some really good connections in sort of filmmaking societies and all of that. And there's a director duo called Elliot and Xander Weaver. They're fantastic UK-based directors. We want to sort of develop Hey You into a feature-length version, essentially, and kind of approach it again from a different angle, whereas this short film was based on my relationship with kindness. I'm really interested to figure out what other people feel about kindness. So it would, in essence, be doing a very similar thing, but inviting people to pick up a card to a filmed interview where I'm really intrigued to know how kindness has affected strangers as well, not just me. So sort of going to the next level and seeing how kindness affects other people, not just me, really. That's a plan. That's early stages, but it'd be cool to explore that, yeah.
This sounds brilliant. And something that I picked up from the film was when you said that it was creative people who were responding.
Yeah, so, I mean, out of 107 cards, I got about 35 responses, and I'd say over 95% of the responses I got were people who work in the creative sector, and I found that fascinating, and I thought about it, and I thought, well, I tried putting myself in those shoes if I picked up a card. And I think creative people, they seek out interesting stories.
Yeah.
They see a card that says open me. I know, I'm like, oh, what's this going to be? What adventure am I about to go on? What story is this going to be that I can share and be a part of? And there were some interesting times where I'd pop a card on an empty carriage and sort of walk down a few seats, and I'd see people come and ha with the card and then put it back down and not sure. But it was always creative people that would pick it up and go, right, I'm having that, I'll open that. Anything that seems out of place in the world, I think they're more in tune to see it.
Yeah, it's kind of having that curiosity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's 100% that, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, if I saw a little card, I'd be picking it up.
Originally, when I started the project, I was like, I'm going to try and film people opening the cards. And then I realised quite early on, I think in the film there's maybe 1 or 2 clips, but there was a young woman in her early 20s, I think. She picked up a card in Baker Street Station, and it was on the platform, and I was sort of recording it on the sly. And I suddenly realised that I just looked like a creep. No one knows I'm doing it. So I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't just be recording random people not knowing what's going on. So I had to sort of rethink that a little bit. I was really keen to keep it a secret. I didn't tell anybody until I released the film.
So how do people access the film?
So you can watch the film at heyyouopenme.co.uk. Really nice and simple. There's a bit about why I did it there and a bit about me. But the film's there alongside another film I did called Rubik's, which I did at the same time. So they're kind of sister films to each other, really. But heyyouopenme.co.uk. I encourage other people to do a similar thing and share some kindness. It's easy.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that when you said being kind is easier than the opposite.
It is. I think the world remembers what you do as opposed to who you are. And I think if what you do is being kind, then the world remembers that and returns it back to you. Kindness is easy. It's much easier than the opposite. It's in our hearts. It's in our souls. We're designed to be kind. So surrender to it, I think.
So you feel like this whole project has changed your life?
Yeah, 100%. It's kickstarted the change at the very least, and is the engine behind it, that's for sure.
How else would people connect with you on social media?
So you can find me at Joshua Ford Actor on Instagram, which is basically where I mainly sort of hang around, and I'm doing some cool, exciting things this year. So, yeah, absolutely come on board for the ride.
Yeah, keep us in the loop. It's so fabulous to talk to you, and I just love this whole concept. Been brilliant chatting to you today.
A space to speak your mind with Cornwall Mind.
That's all for today's programme. I'm Richard. I hope you'll join us next time here on A Space to Speak Your Mind.
If you miss anything, you can download a podcast right now on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon Podcasts.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear the new episode when it comes out, or listen back to any of our previous programs.
For support and more information for better mental health,
visit cornwallmind.org
or call the Mind Helpline during office hours
on 0300 123 3393,
or call the NHS Help helpline at 111 and then press 2.
This gives you another way to get urgent help if you're struggling with your mental health.
And you can call the Samaritans anytime for free at 116-123.
If you'd like to be part of the show, you can get in contact. Email as spacetospeakyourmind@gmail.com.
And you can find out more about the show if you follow Cornwall Mind on Facebook or Instagram or on their website, cornwallmind.org.
A space to speak your mind with Cornwall Mind.